Chapter 2. Time and tide wait for no man. This proverb's origin is not known and it predates modern English. The earliest known record was in 1225 from Saint Maher, and die tide und die time pat to iboren were shall bion iblishet. This old version later evolved to the tide abides for, tarrieth for no man, stays no man, tide nor time tarrieth no man. First recorded in 1395 in Geoffrey Chaucer's prologue to the Clerk's Tale. The modern version as we know it today evolved from Chaucer's tale. This proverb simply means that no one can stop the passing of time. Once the time passes, it is gone and cannot be recovered. The value of time. Of all the commodities you have, time is the most valuable, even more valuable than money. You can always earn more money, but you cannot make more time. It is always limited to 24 hours a day. If you lose money or any other physical property, you can always regain it. But if you lose time, it's gone for good. This means that the time you do not use, or the time you use for the things that do not move you closer to your goals, is time that you will never recover. It therefore goes without saying that considering how valuable your time is, you should guard it and use it very wisely and consciously. A lot of people are very protective of their physical property and their money, and yet fail to protect their most valuable asset, their time. Prioritize before scheduling. Some people equate being busy with being productive, even though this is clearly not the case at all. This fallacy comes from the notion that if your schedule is full and you are doing something all day, then you feel or can show others that you are productive. If you have a project deadline at the end of the week, but you spend most of the days in the week cleaning your apartment, taking your car to the car wash, tidying up your basement, and so on, you are busy, but you are not being productive as far as your project is concerned. It is therefore important, before scheduling, to figure out what the most important things are. No one can tell you what is important for you, not your best friend, not your spouse. Absolutely no one. You have to know what is important for you before scheduling. Once you figure out what is important for you, make sure the items in your list of most important issues dominate your schedules. I would suggest not having more than 5 things on that list. This, of course, means that you prioritize them in your schedule every day without excuses. As long as the issues in the list are not dealt with in your schedule, you will consciously and unapologetically ignore all other issues unless they are a matter of life and death. It is basically resolving to put first things first, consistently without exception. This calls for a lot of self-discipline, but the upside is that your productivity increases and your chances of attaining your goals are much higher. The 4 Quadrants of Life. Stephen R. Covey, the author of the bestseller The 7 Habits of Most Effective People, talks in his book about the 4 quadrants of life as far as personal and time management is concerned. The 4 quadrants of life, as coined by Dr. Covey, are as follows. Quadrant 1 consists of issues that are urgent and important. For example, overdue bills, a broken car that needs to be fixed, medical emergencies, etc. This is the quadrant of crisis management. Quadrant 2 consists of issues that are important but not urgent. For example, relationship building, planning, training, or further studies. This is the quadrant of prevention, planning, and improvement. Quadrant 3 consists of issues that are urgent but not important. These could be interruptions from colleagues, certain meetings, phone calls, etc. This is the quadrant of interruptions. Quadrant 4 consists of issues that are neither urgent nor important. For example, mindless surfing of the internet, watching television for several hours, etc. This is the quadrant of time wasters. Dr. Covey points out the fact that family and society conditions most people to believe that they should focus mostly on those things that are important and urgent. Quadrant 1. And while it is true that you cannot ignore Quadrant 1, issues like overdue bills, focusing primarily on this quadrant most certainly leads to a very stressful life and chaotic time management. One is always in crisis mode and spends a lot of energy putting out fires instead of being creative and productive. Those who focus on quadrant 2, on the other hand, lead less stressful lives and are in the long term more productive and creative. Planning for a trip or project that is due 1 year later is important, but not urgent, which is why a lot of people ignore it. They forget the fact that planning in advance reduces stress, as in most cases, much less expensive. Of all the 4 quadrants, quadrant 2 should be the main focus for those who intend to live good and successful lives. Prevention is not urgent, but it is important. Yes, without a doubt. Relationship building is not urgent, but very important in the long term. Quadrant 2 issues should have first priority in your schedule. Focus and ignore distractions. I used to ask myself the question, why is it that given the same amount of time, some people seem to achieve a lot more than others? I always thought it's because the high achievers are super intelligent people with high IQs, or that they had special abilities that others do not have. None of that is true. There are many highly intelligent and talented people who do not achieve much, and on the other hand, some people with average IQs and little talent who achieve quite a lot. What do the high achievers have in common, irrespective of their talents and IQs? They are very highly focused people. They know what is important for them, and they focus on going after it day by day, while at the same time unapologetically ignoring distractions. A look into the life of Mother Teresa of Calcutta shows how the intense focus on a goal can lead to great achievements. I know that some people liked her and others did not, but there is one thing that even those who did not like her cannot question. She helped the poor a lot. Born in August 26, 1910 in Skopje, capital of the Republic of North Macedonia, she decided at the age of 18 in 1928 to become a nun and went to Ireland to join the Sisters of Loreto in Dublin, where she took the name Sister Mary Teresa. After completing training in Ireland, she went to India in 1929 and began teaching at the St. Teresa School in West Bengal. She was given the world-famous name Mother Teresa on May 24, 1937, after taking her profession of vows. She taught at St. Teresa's School for 20 years, but was always touched by the plight of the poor people in the community she was working in. She therefore decided to focus her life on helping them. She sought the approval of the local Archbishop Ferdinand Perrier to begin her mission of helping the poor. In January of 1948, he gave her the final approval to pursue her calling, and in August 17th of the same year, she began her missionary work for the poor. As a physical sign of her intention to focus on helping the poor, she replaced her traditional Loreto clothing with a simple white cotton sari that had a blue border on the edges. After 2 years of intense focus on her work that was clearly showing results, the Vatican gave the nod for her to start the Missionaries of Charity, which she did in October 7th, 1950. 2 years later, she opened the first home for the dying. In the 50s, suffering from leprosy was looked down upon in India. If you were poor and suffering from leprosy, it was even worse, because most people did not care about the poor. Mother Teresa was focused and intense in her fight to help people, and so she inaugurated the first home for people suffering from leprosy. Mother Teresa also had a big heart for the poor, orphaned, and homeless youths. In 1955, she opened an orphanage to help such children, which was named the Children's Home of the Immaculate Heart. By 1970, the Missionaries of Charity had established their work in different countries all over the world. And by 1977, there were over 400 people working for them in 123 countries across all continents, helping thousands, if not millions, of poor people. Mother Teresa's achievements attest to the power of focus. She had a mission in her heart and followed through with intention and focus. There were definitely a lot of distractions along the way, and she probably went through moments of doubt and discouragement. Without focus, she would not have achieved what she did within that time. She ignored all the noise and completely zeroed in on her mission. Greg McKeown, in his great book, Essentialism, put it this way: Only once you give yourself permission to stop trying to do it all, to stop saying yes to everyone, can you make your highest contribution towards the things that really matter. Mother Teresa based her life on this principle, and thus contributed very highly towards helping the poor. Focus has two major benefits. You are highly likely to achieve your goal, and you will achieve it within a shorter period of time than when you are not focused. We use our time better when we focus. Being all over the place may make you feel like you're doing a lot, but in the long term, it is actually a waste of time in as far as achieving quality results is concerned. Learn to say no. There are so many offers and opportunities that come our way, and many of them are even very good, but very few are essential. Put another way, a good offer or opportunity is not necessarily essential, and, in fact, in a majority of the cases, it's not. One of the major reasons many people have difficulty managing their time is because new opportunities that have nothing to do with their goals, non-essential, come their way. They find it difficult to say no and hence are distracted. In the end, failing to fulfill what they had set out to achieve. When opportunities or offers come your way, no matter how good they are, ask yourself this question: is this really essential? If the answer is negative, then you should say a clear no. Once again, remember that we all have limited time, 24 hours a day, and considering the value of time, you should use most of it, not all of it, to deal with issues that are essential to you. We all know that friend, colleague, or relative who comes in while you are busy doing something important and starts small talk that seems to have no end. If you don't put a stop to it, your time will be wasted and you may not make progress in what you are doing. Sometimes it also comes in the form of a telephone call that seems to have no specific agenda, just an open-end, mindless chatter that takes your time from what you wanted to do. Learning to say no in such cases, without feeling bad about it, is important. I came to realize that we teach people how they should treat us. If you do not set clear boundaries, people will walk all over you. It is not even because they are bad people, but because it is just human nature to act like that. Your time is valuable, more valuable than money. Guard it with all your heart. I once had a friend who was a very nice, kind, and reliable person. However, he had this tendency of talking without a comma or full stop. Sometimes he would call me at work, and even though he knew I was busy, I told him that several times, he would go on to talk very long about matters that had nothing to do with my work or were not urgent at all. At first, I made the mistake of not saying no because I thought it would be impolite. I, however, realized that by doing that, I was getting distracted, and therefore not making good use of my valuable time. I mastered the courage to talk to him about it and made it very clear that even though I like him as a person, his habit was messing up my time and I would not tolerate it. At first he was irritated, but he understood my point, and since then it never happened again. These distractions sometimes also come in form of other people's problems or issues. I want to make it clear that I am not advocating for being mean or not caring about others. However, some people have a way of imposing their problems on you, manipulating you into focusing on their issues, and keeping you from important issues that are essential to you. It is particularly hard if the said person is your good friend or your relative. You feel obligated to spend time doing what they want you to do, even if it keeps you from using your time to do essential things. There are two important questions you should ask yourself in this case. 1. If I were not here, is it a problem he or she would find a way to solve? And 2, is it so urgent and life-threatening that it merits allocating my precious time to deal with it? If the answer to these two questions is a clear no, then you can reject the request without feeling bad about it. Always keep in mind that your time is precious and limited. My guiding principle on this has been the words on Mark Goulston in his book, Get Out of Your Own Way. If you can't say no without fear, or yes without resentment, it's time to say stop. Time is your ally, but only if used productively. One of the major differences between successful people and those who are not successful is their use of time. If you want to know whether you have used your time productively in the last say 10 years, look at several things: your attitude, your physical appearance, your environment, your bank account, and so on. The results don't lie. If you use the majority of your time doing things that have nothing to do with your set goals, then you should not wonder why you never achieved your goal. Time is a great ally, but only if used productively. Let's take an example of two young women. We will call them Sarah and Anne. They are both of the same age and intelligence levels. Sarah decides at the age of 20 to start saving up for her retirement, watches her diet, eating only healthy food, and also works out regularly. Anne, on the other hand, does the exact opposite. She spends most of the money she has every month on shopping and entertainment. She cares less about her nutrition and never works out. 20 years later, at the age of 40, Anne realizes that she needs to save up for her retirement and also starts watching her diet and engaging in regular workouts. By the time they hit the half-century mark, Sarah has of course saved up much more money than Anne and is in better physical shape too. They both had the same amount of time but used it differently. The results speak for themselves. How we use our time is evident in many ways. For example, if you spend more time reading good books, you will have a different attitude and act differently than if you spend more time mindlessly surfing the internet. What you feed your mind over a long period of time determines your paradigm, your actions, and your results. Tips on productive use of your valuable time. You may be thinking, I'm aware of the value of time, but I keep on making mistakes as far as time management is concerned. Here are some tips. Number 1, schedule your week before it starts. Take about 30 minutes to think of the important things you need to do during the coming week and make sure you schedule them before the week begins. That means Sunday evening at the latest. Starting a week without a written schedule is a prerequisite to being swayed by matters that come your way, whether they are important or not. Writing is a neuromuscular activity that forces you to think before scheduling. Of course, the mere act of writing is not a guarantee that you will follow through, but the likelihood is higher than someone who does not write down his or her schedule. While scheduling, take great note once again that the most important things to you should always be prioritized. Number 2, be realistic in your scheduling. Do not bite more than you can eat. When you are highly motivated and emotions take over, you might schedule too many activities for each day of the week. Take time to think of each of the activities you want to schedule and ask yourself whether they are important and how much time you would need to do them without overwhelming yourself. Be very honest and realistic in your estimation. Do not compare yourself with someone else or try to impress others. It is your own race, and know yourself best. For example, if your fitness level is not very high and you want to start a regular workout, don't schedule 1 hour every day for your workout. It is just not sustainable, and you will end up abandoning your plan. Write down a time frame that is sustainable. Number 3, do it when your brain has energy. There are people who are more productive in the morning, while others are more productive in the evening. Know yourself and do the most important things at the time of the day when you are most productive. Our brain is like a muscle as far as energy management is concerned. If you try to do the most important things when your brain is out of energy, you will not be very productive with your time. Please note that I'm not talking about your feelings here. You will not always feel like doing even the most important things, but you should do them anyway. I'm specifically talking about having little energy in your brain. We all know those moments. Number 4, schedule enough time for sleep. I know there are people who equate hard work with little sleep. I respectively disagree with them. You can only be truly productive with your time if your body and mind are well rested. You are simply more relaxed, you feel fresh, and can be more creative when you have enough sleep. Enough sleep also has a lot of health benefits, which we shall touch on in another chapter. A lot of people procrastinate for a long time because they are waiting for the right time. The right time is a matter of definition. You will never really feel quite ready to leave your comfort zone and take up a new challenge. My experience is that you should start from where you are with the resources you have, otherwise you might never start. For example, if your goal is to start a new business and then you procrastinate on the idea because it would cost too much, you are not making good use of your time. Instead, you could use your current resources and time to write a business plan. If you don't know how to do it, use your time to find out how to do it by going for lessons or learning through the internet. Mel Robbins, one of America's most prolific teachers, put it this way: "There is no right time, there is just time, and what you choose to do with it." I could not agree more. There is absolutely no excuse not to do something about your goal. Remember that time and tide wait for no man.